Welcome to the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise New Zealand webinar on-demand series supported by Ecosystem. Through the series, we're going to be exploring what everything as a service means to you and your organizations. I'm Alan Hesketh. I'm a Principal Analyst, CIO Advisory and Digital Transformation for Ecosystem. Our research is showing us that about 40% of New Zealand organizations have adopted a hybrid cloud model, and another 40% are seriously evaluating it. 60% are also looking at containerisation. 30% have already decided to take a cloud-first strategy, and another 30 are actively building native cloud applications. So the role of hybrid cloud is becoming more and more important in New Zealand organisations. So today we're going to be talking to HPE about abstracting how you abstract your complex hybrid cloud to get you some capability to be able to focus more on essential business outcomes, how using containers can assist in delivering standardization for your corporate applications, and why the edge to cloud architecture is critical to getting insights from data into decision makers' hands quickly. Joining me for this episode is Mike Draper from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. He's the South Pacific Director for Hybrid Cloud Solutions. Welcome, Mike. By your accent, you're not from the South Pacific. How did you come to be in New Zealand?
Well, Alan, I think you're spot on. Absolutely. My accent will tell you that I'm neither from New Zealand or the South Pacific. I originally hail from Boston, Massachusetts. So how I got to New Zealand is a very interesting question. Let me tell you the backstory. I was fortunate in that I joined Cloud Technology Partners in 2011 to co-author their cloud adoption framework and help them scale their delivery organization. Cloud Technology Partners is a leading cloud consultancy, and our focus there was helping large, highly regulated enterprises both move to and operate in the public cloud. We were acquired by Hewlett-Packard Enterprises in 2017, and now we form the basis of the hybrid cloud consulting practice. So 2 years ago, I moved to Auckland, New Zealand to help support the delivery of hybrid cloud services to the South Pacific, and I'll have to say that I'm glad that I did.
Your title includes the phrase hybrid cloud solutions. Given this is a frequently used phrase today, what does this mean to you?
I'm glad you asked that question, Alan. Thank you. Yep, the definition of cloud has evolved over the years, and unfortunately, it's a label that marketeers liberally apply to many services. So I think it's important that, having this conversation, we all have a common understanding of the nomenclature we're using. So to Hewlett-Packard Enterprises, hybrid cloud refers to a platform that employs both private and public cloud to deliver a specific service. You can think of it as the intersection of public and private clouds that share integrated services. What we've found is companies are realizing that they need many different types of cloud services in order to meet customer needs. Just looking over, HPE's client space, 70 to 80% of our clients globally are running hybrid cloud environments.
You've described the core proposition for HPE's hybrid cloud solution to me as being to abstract the complexity in the solution. What do you mean by this? And how does this deliver value to the organization?
Great question. So let's think about a few things first. Let's think about the definition of complexity. And then let's take a look at the attributes of hybrid cloud environments. From an engineering perspective, complexity is defined as the number of discrete or unique components within a process or a system. So as the number of unique components grow, so doesn't the overhead required to operate in the environment. Yeah. So think about what's going on in a hybrid cloud environment. You've got firewalls, you have gateways, you have network overlays, you have storage systems, you have tooling, you have integration points, edge devices, security control, third-party products. It goes on and on and on and on. Not only that, hybrid cloud environments are not static and are often changing by the minute, a very dynamic environment. So the number of discrete components in hybrid cloud environments have grown to the point where traditional manual processes and tooling become ineffective in day-to-day operations. And what we're seeing, this is one of the reasons why we see some hybrid cloud programs fail to meet business objectives. Yes, the technology gets rolled out, but at a much higher cost and with a lot less agility. So what HPE has done, they've developed a fully integrated modular hybrid cloud platform called GreenLake. You don't have to worry about patching, updating, integrating system level components. It gets deployed across your edge, your public cloud environments, your private cloud environments, your data centers. And what it has intuitive self-service portals that provide automated services to a variety of personas. It scales up and down. It gives you that cloud experience. It's a consumption-based model, right? So the more you use, the more you pay. The less you use, the less you pay. And it comes with a variety of management options. So in summary, what HPE has done is they've taken ownership of all that complexity and abstracted it and removed it, from the end user, and allowing the end user to, giving them a self-service option allows them to focus more on creating business value in a timely manner. And so that's how HPE has launched GreenLake.
It's a pretty powerful proposition. So the hybrid cloud can cover systems running on-prem or in private or public clouds. What role do you see containerization playing in this environment?
Okay, all right. Hybrid clouds and containerization are very synergistic and complementary. You have to think about it. Developers love containers. Well, why would they love something? Because it makes jobs easier for them. And the reason being, containers allow developers to run their application code across multiple environments without changes. We've been chasing that dream for years. Java was supposed to do it for us, right? The old mantra, write once, run anywhere. Well,
many times.
It did okay, but containers just excel at that. They also facilitate multivariant testing and allow applications to rapidly scale. If you think about custom applications, A/B testing is a very useful practice, but it can be a very laborious undertaking. There's a lot of moving parts to think about if you're saying, I want to release 2 versions of the software and see which one is better performant or better received by by my customers. Releasing 2 versions of software and monitoring it and thinking about rollbacks. I mean, it's an arduous task. Containerization, in particular Kubernetes, which is a container management orchestration platform, just makes that so much easier to do. One of the strengths of these, container orchestration platforms is configuration management. So releasing multiple versions and decide which one you want to keep, rolling forward or rolling back, it's just a command line execution. It's a lot easier. So to sum up the value of containers, Alan, in a hybrid cloud environment, it's absolutely write once, run in multiple environments, and simplification of configuration management.
Yeah, that offers a lot of flexibility for companies. But are there circumstances where containerization is not appropriate?
Oh, yes. Sometimes our clients go overboard, right? If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yes, containers are not a panacea. As we mentioned, they excel at facilitating portability across different environments and allowing applications to rapidly scale. But they require specific skill sets, time, budgetary, and stakeholder commitment, particularly from the infrastructure and ops folks, to adopt. So you need to understand what they can do, what they're good for, and what they're not good for, right? So when I think about areas of containerization that may not be appropriate, one of the first things that comes to mind is persistence. It's kind of tricky to manage persistent applications in containers. So applications, by that I mean, if applications have a requirement where they need to store data inside of itself, you can do that in containers, but you have to jump through a lot of hoops, and now you're starting to have something unique to manage. It's really not a good fit. The other thing where it's not a good fit, if you have a large monolithic traditional legacy Java application, please don't try to stuff it into a container, right? You're just really adding complexity for the ops teams and performance as well. Similarly, if you have a very simple application that you have to push out, don't add any unneeded complexity containerizing it. Just push it out. And then lastly, you have to think about security. I mean, security has to be at top of mind for everyone nowadays, and containers have security related limitations. They're not great from the standpoint of they're not big holes, but you have to understand how to work with security within containers. And as you build, move, and operate, make sure you address those requirements. So in summary, I would say, understand the value and the limitations of containers. I would absolutely recommend that you conduct a container suitability assessment of your portfolio so you can understand what should go where. And then lastly, make sure you address security.
Yeah, we're going to come back to security, I think, in our next webinar. But HPE named its recent Discover 2021 event as the Edge to Cloud conference. We've heard about the cloud from you today. What role do you see the edge in this context having for organizations?
I'm glad you asked that question, Alan. If I think of the edge, I think the edge is the final frontier, right? So a data center-centric enterprise is really a thing of the past, right? Where you have a four-wall data center and everything gets stored, processed, and analyzed there. I was reading a Gartner article the other day, and they're predicting by 2025, 75% of all data created will be processed outside of the data center, right? So think about it. Think about the proliferation of smart devices, of IoT, video analytics, smart factories, autonomous vehicles. Now, the role edge computing is having on organizations, it's addressing a problem. What it does, it reduces data processing time and expense. You can't afford the time and expense of shipping data to a public or a private cloud, endpoint for processing. It just doesn't work. There's way too much data out there, the volume that is being created. If you need to provide AI insights in real time, the only way you can do it is on the edge.
Can you describe some of the implementations you've seen for this type of edge usage and the value that organizations have seen as a result?
This is growing in popularity, edge computing. I mean, we see a lot in manufacturing, both in the area of process control and work safety, video analytics. It's big in retail and financial services, energy, technology and communications, and in the public sector, as we said, smart cities. However, if I just had to list one example that underscores the value proposition of edge computing, without a doubt, it would be HPE's joint project with NASA to deploy real-time data processing capabilities aboard the International Space Station. And you want to talk about cool. If you think about the challenge that space exploration poses, is that our space vehicles now are carrying more and more experiments. They have all sorts of high-resolution cameras, and sensors are everywhere, right? So collecting all this spaceborne data and processing it at a centralized location, sending it down to a terrestrial data center, it used to take months. I mean, that doesn't work anymore. So HPE is helping NASA accelerate space exploration and increasing the self-sufficiency of astronauts by enabling real-time data processing with advanced commercial edge computing in space. Just the stuff that you can put in your shop, we put up on the International Space Station. And what we did, right, we reduced the time of insight to months to minutes on various experiments in space, ranging from medical imaging to DNA sequencing to just unlocking key insights, getting from the volumes of remote sensors and satellites. It really is a cool case study. Just Google it, HPE, International Space Station, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the read.
It's got some unique distance challenges, doesn't it? In terms of it's difficult to string a fiber up to the International Space Station to be able to shift the data. So that's pretty cool.
Years ago, right? So it's exactly how it works today.
If you're leading an organization with limited resources, how would you start your journey into the hybrid cloud?
That's a great question. Even if you have unlimited resources, which no one really has, hybrid cloud adoption should really be a business-driven decision, right? So I would recommend focus on the financials and the business value first, not the technology, right? Develop a vision and a business case, because really at the end of the day, the purpose of any technology or architecture is to deliver business value. And adopting hybrid cloud is transformational in nature. So you're going to be asking all sorts of folks to change what they're doing. And so they need to understand why, and having a solid business case with a total cost of ownership and ROI analysis done is really going to facilitate that. So, and then, I would ask, answer the question, why? Why hybrid cloud? And then I would also ask the question, do we need to be in the data center business, right? Many of our customers are starting to realize that, managing a data center is not their core competency, right? And that they shouldn't be in that business. And they're moving more and more to consumption-based services for a lot of reasons, right? Because it aligns expense with business value. And things that scale up and scale down, and they're focused on, items that are higher in the stack that are driving, business agility and business growth. I would also, recommend that clients engage with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise so they can understand what are the success patterns and failure patterns, what are the mistakes others have made, and what are your peers in the industry doing that are really achieving success. And then, ask HPE how they can help your company start their journey. You'd be surprised. We have a vast catalog of services that can accelerate your journey, including walking in and buying all your assets off the floor, whether they're HPE equipment or someone else's equipment, and handing you a check to be able to accelerate your move to consumption-based services. So, we all know, Alan was spoken about this as before. It's a journey, right? And often the most difficult step is the first step. So my recommendation is to leverage the knowledge and experience of those who are familiar with the journey.
Yeah, it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. Mike, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate your insights. Today, we talked about how the hybrid cloud can help an organization abstract to the complexity of the modern computing environment to help shift the organization to focusing on the essential business outcomes. This is the third in a series of webinars we're going to be releasing, with our next episode looking into the issue of cybersecurity as your organization moves into the hybrid cloud environment. Thanks for spending time with us today.